Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brady Grove bringing you another interlude episode of RotoBallers official MMA podcast. Tap that. And so we got UFC 291 coming up this weekend. I'll be with Connor Bone Sloan making picks for the whole pay-per-view event. But today is an interlude episode. And it's someone I'm very excited to have on the show. This guy is an American product. He has played in Europe for the Badalona Drax. He spent some time with the Rain Fire, the Dusseldorf Panther, the Zaragoza Hurricanes, the Tyrol Raiders, and most recently has signed with the Ferhavar in Throners. He came out of the University of Arizona, a conference that puts quarterbacks in the professional ranks. Give it up for Kevin Doyle Jr. Kevin, thanks so much for being here this morning.
I appreciate you having me, and I'm impressed with the Ferhavar pronunciation. You got it right off the jump. It was great.
I have to confess, and folks, that it's morning for me. It is not morning where Kevin's at. And
No.
Kevin, I did watch a YouTube video right beforehand, how to pronounce Farivar. I felt like I ran through the teams, and I was like, the only one that I'm gonna have a problem with is Farivar. So I'm
You and
glad.
me both. You and me both. We both watched the YouTube video on how to pronounce it before talking about it for sure. And so what's crazy is Ferhavar is actually the shortened version. So the Hungarian version is like Sefeherivar. So there you add it's spelled the same way, Ferhervar, right? But you add a Szek in the front. And it's like it's like it's tough. Real tough. But we're here. We're loving it. And yeah, happy to be here. Happy to be talking to you.
And I want to get to, all the different things that you've experienced in your time as a professional quarterback in Europe. But let's go back to where, I believe it was just 2018 when you came out of high school.
Yeah, I graduated class of 2018 out of high school and enrolled right away at University of Arizona. Spent 3 years there on scholarship and graduated in 3 years because with the state of the world at the time, with COVID and everything else, and also with the NCAA rules, they were then allowing people the ability to transfer one time. But when I first entered college, I wasn't able to. Like it was, if you were to transfer, you'd have to sit out a year. So off the jump, I automatically knew that, being just always having a plan B kind of thing. If I wanted to do anything, if I didn't want to leave school, I would have to graduate early. And so I graduated with 3 years left of eligibility, but said, screw it. And, decided to come to Europe.
And that's the crazy thing too. It's why it's a shock to see that you just came out of high school in 2018. There are guys that came out of high school in 2016, I feel like, that are on their sophomore year of college football right now.
It's crazy. I mean, I know of at least two or three guys that, because guys that I played with in school, they were older than me, that are like, so and so, wide receiver, 6 year. I'm like, 6 years? I'm like 6 years? That's crazy.
That's a long time to spend at any college. It's almost like a Twilight Zone thing at that point. And it seems like the University of Arizona is a fun place to be. That might be a little too long to spend that long a time.
I don't think it's like Vegas in a sense where I don't think you can survive 6 years. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be a long time. Although no, he graduated. All right, so I do know a guy who went 5.5 basically, which is a long time anyways, and I don't know how he did it.
And that's the kind of the crazy thing too about how you entered the professional ranks in Europe is there was no tape of you at Arizona. They had to go
Mhm.
back to your high school footage. And I watched your senior year highlights, and I love the way that you use your mobility and you're not afraid to take a hit once you enter open field and you get past the line of scrimmage. And that's a rare fact. That's a rare thing to see in, quarterbacks in this day and age.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you saying that because on that tape that you watched, I assume there's a lot of guys on there that are in the NFL now, like guys like Nick Cross, who was last year the youngest guy in the NFL. A guy DeMarco Helms, who played at Alabama and now is in the league. I forget what team he's with now, I think, but a bunch of guys, so a lot of talent there. And yeah, I mean, no tape at Arizona, did not play there. And, that comes from just going to a school outside your recruiting base and, my relationship was with more the OC as opposed to the head coach, which is unique. And if I was to advise quarterbacks or really anybody going to college, I would tell them, make sure you have a good relationship with both because it's important. If you know the OC, the head man ultimately calls the shots anyways. So, yeah, no tape. So it was tough. I mean, I had to, just go off of, high school tape, and then I had some private workout stuff that I had, and it was college tape, practice tape as well, which honestly looks good and professional. And like, when you go full team on team, like it's go time. So it was tough for teams, but lucky enough to have gotten a chance and made the most of it, and here we are.
And I know one, I love the way that so many guys end up signing in Europe, which is like making, a profile on Europe Ballers or one of the many
Yeah,
sites where you have to do that. And it's like social media for, coaches in Europe looking for players and a lot of American talent that, for whatever the reason slipped through the cracks. But you brought up a good point about how you ended up at Arizona and kind of some of the factors that led to you maybe not getting as many opportunities there. You're a Northeast guy. You're from Philly and from DC. You
mhm.
spent time in DC. You're used to cold weather and the Northeast area of the U.S. Do you think in this NIL era, do you think that you would have been more, more willing to go to a place like, say, Temple or, someplace in the Northeast where maybe they could then offer you those opportunities that in 2018 they couldn't?
Absolutely. I mean, well, I had offers from all those schools. A lot of schools in the Northeast, a lot of Big Ten, SEC, Big 12 schools. And so I had the opportunity to go there. It's just at the time I didn't see it fit, but now with the NIL era, it makes things all interesting because like I don't know the exact numbers that are being thrown around. I know that I mean some guys are getting like 20,000 for a few autograph signings, or some guys are getting a car, different things like that. So I think it makes things unique because all of a sudden me being a closer to a bigger city kid, like like you mentioned, Philly, DC. My family's lived in New York as well. So like I enjoy the big city. I'm used to the hustle and bustle. I'm used to, something like that. To go in my mind, I was like, all right, cool, let's go someplace established. Phoenix is not too far from Tucson. So I knew there was something out there. But now schools like West Virginia with Morgantown or Oxford in Mississippi. Those small town schools that have big boosters that would make things a lot more interesting. And although schools like Ole Miss and Mississippi State and those small campus schools already do well with talent, I think it gives them more room for opportunities because they can play ball with the big schools that have the big cities and more venues and more appealing, I guess, to the general person per se. But yeah, no, I think that I would absolutely if I could go back and redo it, sure. But did I enjoy my time there at Arizona? Absolutely. Like there's a reason I didn't transfer for 3 years because I loved my time off the field, had a lot of friends, really enjoyed the West Coast. And so yeah, I mean, ultimately, it does change things, and I think you'll see that in the years to come with college football.
And even though you didn't get any in-game action at Arizona, what are some ways that you think your time there contributed to who you are now as a quarterback?
I mean, first thing that comes to mind is just the connections that the OC and quarterback coach Noel Mazzoni had. First off, he was a very good man to me, very nice, took care of me, and I always think highly of him. And so he's coached a lot of great quarterbacks, people from Brock Osweiler to Josh Rosen, you name it. He's probably had some sort of impact on their career, and so. He brought in Coach Mazzoni, that is, had brought in guest speakers. Brock Osweiler spoke to us. Christian Ponder has spoken to us. Nick Foles. And being from Philly, I love the Nick Foles one because he went to Arizona as well. So, he spoke to us, and just hearing these guys is like philosophies and the way they study plays, the way they prepare for defenses, the way they prepare week to week really helped instill into me the work ethic that is necessary to be a successful quarterback. And I mean, who better to learn from than Brock Osweiler, who by the way learned from Peyton Manning when he was with the Broncos. So like in a way, vicariously, I'm learning about Peyton Manning through Brock Osweiler, who's already a great quarterback. But I mean, you start talking about the sheriff, and all of a sudden, it's a little bit better talking about Peyton.
And that makes a lot of sense, especially when a player is, has a bit of a coach's mind and knows how to pass those things on. We know that coaching trees, it can be trustworthy when you trace them backward through time. So that makes a ton of sense. And so there's a little bit of like family history kind of, right, and how you ended up like, thinking about playing football in Europe. Could you tell people about that real quick?
Well, I mean, playing football in Europe, I had some friends that their fathers played in Europe back in the day with the NFL Europe. I had some people that reached out to me, and once they seen what I was doing, they're happy about it. It's like, hey, I was with this guy, that guy, but I don't have a cousin per se that played over here. I'm honestly the first person that I knew of that played in Europe. Like I didn't know anybody. I went on to actually like Facebook message like one or two quarterbacks that I saw were over here and hey man, like I'm Kevin, I'm new to this. I'm trying to learn the landscape. Do you mind pointing me in the right direction? That kind of thing. But I kind of came in blind with it and it's been a blessing since. But yeah, that's really that.
That then maybe either I misread something or they miswrote something in an ELF article that was talking about your signing with Farivar. But so you've been with a lot of different teams so far, and you've collected a handful of flags. And what do you think makes each country's flavor of professional football? When even though the countries play against each other depending on what exact league it is in Europe. But what do you
Mhm.
think is the differences from country to country and how they approach football and what their fandom of football is like?
So the fandom of football stems from their fandom of, I guess you could call it soccer, right? Or, so the Spanish fans are loud and proud and they love to sing and, they're soccer, right? Like everything you would think about as in North America as like, oh, what's soccer like in Europe? Like it's exactly that, right? With the streamers and the fireworks and the all that kind of stuff, super fun, loud and boisterous and awesome, right? They're very passionate. Um, that's the fan wise. And then football wise in Spain, it's good. They're athletes. They are quick. You can find a kicker with literally anybody on the field. Like, oh, who needs to punt this? Our punter's hurt. All right, this guy go in. Like anybody could do it. And they're all really good athletes. And then after that, I went to Germany, and Germans are also passionate about football, but more in American sense. Germans in general are pretty reserved, more reserved, I would say, and distant than Spanish people are. Being like of a Latin culture, they're touchy feely and they're going to be in your face and they're going to ask you how you're doing, all that kind of thing. And the Germans, it's going to take a little bit for them to get used to you. And so you got to kind of warm up to them. And so they're passionate though about their football for sure. And, good people. And, I really enjoyed my time in Dusseldorf. The Dusseldorf Rheinfire fans are the best in the league, arguably. They consistently have, north of like 15, maybe even 20,000, if I remember correctly, at games. Like it's big time. And you go to the games, it's funny, you see everybody's wearing their NFL jerseys. So like Adam Thielen, Joe Burrow, Gronk, Brady, you see all these jerseys in the crowd. And it's funny. I mean, to me as an American, I'm like, all right, like you just wore you know, a Sixers jersey to a Heat versus Warriors game. I'm like, what is that? But to them, it gets them excited, brings them in. So I'm like, sure, why not? Um, and then Austrians are very similar to Germans. They've been said, I'm not saying this, but people have said that they are the cooler Germans. They're just a little bit more chill and a little bit more relaxed, I guess you could call it. I can see it for sure. I can see where that narrative comes from, but I like them. It was cool. The organization I was with was the T-Roll Raiders. Very good organization. Very well known. Probably top three in Europe, if we're being honest. From a standpoint of longevity, success, and everything else. They've been playing for many, many years, and they have established leagues from like U9, U6 to all the way up to my league being the highest level in Europe. So those fans are also passionate. Again, very similar to the Germans, and then the Hungarians, where I am right now, they're newer to football per se, and so the fandom overall. But they're passionate, they're excited. It was a shame last week we weren't able to play at home, but we had a sold out crowd, and the people are excited. And Fehérvár is a little bit outside of Budapest, and so people are excited, people are care, and although Hungarian's much different than English, I think that they understand the rules, and especially the guys on the team obviously do, but meaning the fans and everyone else in attendance. And so I mean, there's cheerleaders, there's fans, there's drinks afterwards. People are excited. They make a day out of it, which is what you should do. And yeah, so that's kind of the layout, I guess, in a quick sense of the different type of fans and countries that I've been in. So five, been to 5 countries, lived in 5 countries so far. Been to a lot more, but yeah, it's been awesome.
Well, it's interesting because, like, the countries over there, they're in such close proximity, some of them, that you really have to think of them as like how we think of states over here is, it's a lot of the same, but, you get offensive linemen out of Iowa, you get quarterbacks out of Southern California. And so what's the individual talent like? Because I know you spoke about how, the Spaniards are athletic. The picture that you have on Twitter, the other dude in the passing top three in LNFA Serie A, De Diego. So what are the kind of the talent products that some of the different countries are putting out?
So I mean, really depends on kind of, so there's rules to it, right? Especially for the ELF being the European League of Football, the highest league, right? So you get per team, you get 4 Americans. Okay, so typically it's literally, you ever seen Kicking and Screaming? The movie Kicking
Yeah.
and Screaming? I make a joke about it all the time. And remember when they're like, get it to the Italians? It's it's like that. So you get 4 Americans, right? And so technically they're called A's, right? Which stands for import, right? And that is a person who comes from their country where they have a passport, where their home nation has an established professional league and collegiate league. So there's America, Canada, Mexico, and then there's a fourth. Do you want to try and guess the fourth? It's not in Europe.
Oh my God. Okay, Brazil.
No. One more guess.
One more guess. Okay, let's go. I'll say Ecuador.
Japan.
I have seen a lot. The X League is getting a lot of quarterback attention as well. Shea Patterson even spent a little time before he was with the USFL, it seemed like.
Was he really? I didn't even know he went over there. But yeah, no, I'm interested in the XFL, and I'm sorry, the X League, XFL as well. But I mean, like the X League is cool. But yeah, no, it's super interesting the way they handle things over there. I know a couple guys that have played there. They loved it. But yeah, so those 4 nations are the ones that are considered A's, right? So they're the highest level imports. You get 4 of those on a team, 2 on the field at a time. So typically it's your quarterback receiver or quarterback running back, something like that. Then defensively, a lot of times teams will go safety corner or corner linebacker, something like that. Our team actually has gone 2D linemen, which is an interesting approach and kind of unique. And so, yeah, so that's kind of how that works. And then outside of that, you get 6 EU imports. So guys, they're just from the European Union. So being that if my team being in Hungary, if we wanted to grab a guy from Spain, he would then count as an import because they house him, pay him, do all that, right? So you get 6 of those guys, right? So therefore, majority of your team is homegrown, which is interesting. And so countries such as like Germany and Austria, and are really more established and have played football for a longer time. And these kids have played ball since, they were kids, literally. Now they're grown men, 30, pushing 30 or over 30. They're playing ball. They've played ball the last, 12, 15 years, as opposed to a couple of guys on my team, played, 3, 4 years, 5 years. And so they are, a lot less experienced, but their knowledge is there, and their physical abilities are there. It's just they're haven't had football in their life for as much. So the landscape of things, in short, would be that it's mostly homegrown, but you can get talent everywhere. I mean, you look at like one of the best tight ends in the league is Austrian, and then the other one is German, and like so, there's some French guys that are very, very talented as well. So you can really grab them from anywhere. Just majority of the time, though, you have an American quarterback because the Americans tend to be the best at playing quarterback and the most experienced and that kind of thing. So a couple of times teams have gone with a homegrown or uh, due to injury or whatever. But for the most part, the only team that's done, I believe, a full season of a German quarterback, I think, was the Hamburg Sea Devils in Germany, and that worked out okay for them. They had a pretty successful year. They decided to use it on two receivers instead of one. So yeah, I mean it's just strategic, whatever you so chose. But for the most part, you can get talent from anywhere.
And that's a great system for building up, different countries' talent levels and the amount that they love football. And even though it's ever so gradual, we've seen guys from Germany and Spain, find their way over to NFL rosters. And so it makes you think that it's only a matter of time till you start seeing Italians and people from France and people from Japan doing the same thing as well. And well, what's the coaching like? How many guys, end up coming over from America to coach in Europe?
So I actually came back to U of A, went back to Arizona in earlier this year to do my pro day. I was able to do that for the NFL Combine. Able to do a pro day, and so when I spoke to the coaches there, I did not play for them per se. I spent a spring with them and did spring ball with Jed Fish and his staff at Arizona, and they welcomed me back with open arms. Really great. Enjoyed seeing them, and they were telling me they're like, "Hey man, like I gotta be honest with you, you kind of helped help my retirement plans." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, I just learned that there's football in Europe and you can go and coach and hang out in Europe and play American football. He's like, what's better than that? And I'm like, we're on the same page now. Like that's what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying it. And so the coaches, the biggest name right now is Jim Tomsula. So he was my coach last year with the Dusseldorf Rheinfire. Really good guy, super great, and he's got the right thing going over there. And so Jim Tomsula, formerly of the San Francisco 49ers head coach, and then Norm Chow is the head coach of the Helvet Guards, which is the team from Switzerland, and he was the old OC at University of Southern California, so USC, and there's a lot of other good coaches. Our coaches here, Coach Jamie Hill, our head coach, used to be in the NFL. He coached Deion Sanders. Played with Jerry Rice, guys like that. So, I mean, the coaching is there, and the storiedness, I guess you could say, that their longevity of things, of their careers, are really interesting. And so, the coaching is great. And so, I think more coaches will learn about it, and when the league gets bigger and the money gets bigger and stuff like that, right? I believe that more coaches will continue to come over because it's a great thing. And so you're able to travel and you're able to live overseas and just experience a lot, do a lot. And it's a awesome opportunity.
I can see June Jones making a killer retirement over in Europe. And Jed Fish, by the way, definitely his staff is, well developing Arizona. And Jaden Delora looked fantastic last year. All the credit in the world to that guy and what they're trying to do in a conference that is absolutely stacked with pro quarterback talent.
Oh, awesome.
You mentioned your pro day. And so this is what I kind of want to kind of cap our conversation off with is, this past like the last few months, if you're a guy that is either, in the XFL, USFL, Europe, Canada, it's been wild because there's been XFL and USFL combines all over the place. The XFL and USFL doing their drafts. There's two arena football leagues that are, major and running right now in the US, and the AFL is on its way back. So you're obviously super happy in Europe, but there's all these different and like we talked about the X League as well. And then there's so many levels of European football, and you might not even be done living in all the cool places that you want to live in, while you're over in
Yeah.
the continent. So, what do you see? What are your goals continue to be in professional football, and what do you kind of see the next few years like?
So for me personally, I just turned 24 last week. So, really young in this still. And so, my goal was and continues to be, play ball at the highest level I can. Now, when? I don't know, right? But I want to continue to play and I want to continue to grow as a player and learn more on the field, off the field, maybe get into coaching afterwards. I'm not 100% sure, but love to leave that door open. So, as much as, football as I can learn, the better, And so, uh, would I love to play in the XFL, NFL, all that stuff? Absolutely, right? And so, to be honest with you, from what I hear and from what I'm told from people that have both played in the arena leagues and played and they see it, all that kind of thing. Apparently, Europe has a higher skill level and is overall better than a lot of those arena leagues and stuff like that. So to put it one way, right? Would you rather go slum it out in St. Louis or Barcelona? Like just just go, just a question for the class, like would Barcelona or St. Louis or Berlin or Jacksonville or I don't know, like just name a city. I don't even know where the IFL leagues are, I'll be honest with you. I should, but I don't. But like it's your choice, preference. I personally enjoy traveling. I enjoy you know, things other than football in the life, and I consider myself a person that can live or do anything wherever I am. And so some people don't want to leave the US. Some people don't like living, in a country where they don't speak the native language and they can't read every street sign and they can't, ask basic directions in the language. But I personally like that because I like growing and, um, you know, overall growing as a person and seeing different things. So long-winded answer of saying that I would like to play ball at the highest level. If that's the ELF, that's great. If it's not, if it's Mexico, Canada, somewhere in the US, that's awesome too, right? I don't see myself glued to America in the sense that I want to live there for the rest of my life. I could be very happy anywhere in the world. There's a lot of great places. And so right now I'm in Hungary and I'm finishing out the season here. Season will finish up around September. And so looking forward to that. Have not been back to the States in 2023 yet. I left January 1 of 2023. Maybe go home for a few weeks, rest up, heal up after 3 seasons this calendar year. And so need to get the body right. Body is right, but, could always do more. And yeah, we'll take it from there. There's a lot of opportunities that go all throughout the year. I mean, I pick up my season in January, and so you could play all year round if you so chose, just globally with all these different leagues, and now in America too, all these different opportunities. So there's a lot of opportunity for ball, and there's a lot of ball to be played.
Well, and I think that should be an important takeaway for people that would say that for the people that would try to detract from how many spring leagues there are out there or try to detract from the quality of indoor football or European football, is there's a lot of guys that didn't get their opportunities at the right, the times that are more traditional for whatever reason, and they're getting
Yep.
an opportunity to play. And from Philly to DC to Arizona to 4 different countries in Europe, it's been a wild ride for you. And you're big, you got size, you're durable and athletic. And now that you've actually gotten the opportunity to play and have gotten a good sample size, you've done nothing but play fantastic in Europe.
I
And so,
appreciate that.
well, you're seeing it a lot more now, and I think we will, because scouting is not perfect, and I think that this era is really, kind of shining a light on that.
Mhm.
But Kevin, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for meeting me across probably 5 different time zones to have this conversation. And right, if there's anything else you want to say, anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I was really excited to come on because this is my first MMA podcast that I'm on. I love UFC. I mean, I don't know your stance on him, but I love McGregor. I think he's awesome. I'm an Irish American myself, so and then my ex-girlfriend actually is from Ireland as well, so love Ireland, and so love McGregor, and interested to see when he comes back, and yeah, man, excited for this new UFC coming out.
Oh man, if I had known that you were big into MMA, I got to have you back on the show at some point. We can talk when, McGregor and Chandler's coming up for sure.
Ah, we're back. I'm so ready. I have a flag. It's ridiculous. Like I'm a little fanboy. There's about three people in the world that I fanboy over. It's Conor McGregor, Nick Foles, and I think Tom Brady. I would fanboy over. Nope, four. My favorite actor is Leonardo DiCaprio. If I was to meet those guys, I would. I don't. When I met Nick Foles, I was like starstruck. I'd never get starstruck. You've now talked to me. I don't shut up. And so when Nick was in the room, I didn't say a word. And then my OC had to be like, "Hey, Nick, so we have this guy here, Kevin. He's actually from Philly, and you know, like I just said, typically doesn't shut up, but like, I think he's a little starstruck." And Nick's like, "Oh, you're from Philly?" And I was like, first, before I even say hello, I just want to say thank you. I was like, the amount of happiness you've brought me to the city of Philadelphia, to my friends and family, thank you. And like everyone in the room was dying laughing. And Nick was, in this all seriousness, was like, first off, you're welcome. And he goes, and you guys laugh about the way he just spoke to me. He goes, everybody from Philly I meet like talks to me like that. He's like, I'm like their god. And I was like, well, I mean, like, you're kind of the best. And so it was awesome. Great icebreaker. Really, really, really great guy. And yeah, I'm excited to see my reaction when I meet the other three individuals.
Well, folks, it has been a fantastic conversation with Kevin Doyle Jr. Check out European football. He's been all over the place now with the Farivar Enthroners. Folks, like I said, episode 103, making picks for UFC 291. That'll be coming out later this week. You're listening to this on Wednesday. Thank you so much to Kevin Doyle Jr. for being here. Thanks for listening, folks. Have a great day. Peace.